She was betrayed by her best friend and boyfriend in collusion and died a tragic death. After being reborn, she sought revenge against the scumbag boyfriend, only to unexpectedly discover that things were not that simple. Her fiancé held her in his arms and said, "Honey, as long as you promise me, I'll make them kneel in front of you and cry and repent by themselves tomorrow morning. What do you think? Lisa, will you leave me? If you leave me, I'll really be all alone in this orphanage. Lisa, we're best friends. You said you'd accompany me through junior high and high school. Do you remember that? Lisa, after you're adopted, the sponsor might cut off my funding. Then I won't be able to go to school, will I?" Mournful cries came from outside the door, filled with deep reluctance and fear. It was truly heart-rending to hear. However, Lisa in the room remained unmoved. She held a small mirror in her hand and carefully examined her face. Her eyes and brows were the same, but she had shed her heavy makeup and regained a bit of her youthful innocence. She naturally remembered that this was what she looked like at the age of 14. She had really been reborn to the time before the Thompsons adopted Julia. No, that's not right. In fact, the Thompsons originally wanted to adopt her, Lisa. She was excellent in both character and learning, hard, working, and obedient. The Thompsons had originally taken a fancy to her, but at that time, she couldn't resist Julia's pestering and crying and, out of momentary soft-heartedness, gave up the adoption opportunity to her. Who could have imagined that this moment of soft-heartedness would be the beginning of her nightmare? After being adopted by the Thompsons, for some unknown reason, Julia joined forces with the Thompsons' eldest daughter, Laura, to harm her. But on the surface, she pretended to be her best sister, coaxing her, cheating her out of the chance of promotion and a raise, interfering in her relationship, and finally even having her heart dug out. It was so pitiful that she didn't know everything until she died. It was all because she stood in Laura's way, but she had no idea what enmity she had with the Thompsons. Now, thinking of her hypocritical appearance, best sister, it turned out that she had such scheming at the age of 14. In this life, she wouldn't be so stupid anymore. Julia. And that mastermind behind the scenes, Laura. She wouldn't let any of them go. A cold glint flashed in Lisa's eyes, and she fiercely slammed the small mirror in her hand onto the table. "Lisa, open the door." Julia was still crying outside, at a loss. Lisa suddenly opened the door and saw her pitiful appearance. To be honest, Julia was really good looking, with a sexy figure. At the age of 14, she looked much more mature than Lisa. This was probably thanks to the naive Lisa in her previous life, who secretly gave all the milk that the dean's mother gave her to Julia. After all, Julia was Lisa's best friend in the orphanage. But it was this friend she had treated sincerely who seduced her boyfriend and cruelly killed her. The anger in Lisa's eyes was almost uncontrollable. She silently clenched her fists, using the sharp pain to wake herself up. "What's the matter with you so early in the morning?" Lisa yawned, pretending to have just woken up, but her voice carried a hint of disgust. Unfortunately, Julia was too anxious at the moment and didn't notice the change in Lisa. She just thought that Lisa hadn't heard what she had just said. She took a step forward and hugged Lisa's arm tightly, her eyes red as she said, "Lisa, are you really going to leave with someone? Leave the orphanage? You really don't want me anymore." Lisa was very resistant to her intimate touch and even felt a little disgusted. She lowered her eyes to hide her true emotions. "They said someone wants to adopt a child to be friends with their only daughter." "I don't know what it's like yet," Lisa said indifferently. This precious only daughter was Laura, the eldest daughter of the Thompsons who later instigated Julia to kill her. "If someone chooses you, would you go?" Julia looked timidly at Lisa, her face full of reluctance as she began to cry again. "Lisa, you can't leave me. What will I do if you go? If the sponsor stops paying my tuition, I won't be able to go to school anymore." Lisa was an outstanding student, receiving scholarships from the school and also supported by a sponsor. She had always given the sponsorship money to Julia. In her previous life, Lisa had also considered this and gave up the chance of being adopted to Julia, hoping she would live a comfortable life. Lisa frowned slightly, her expression turning a bit cold as she pushed Julia away. She lowered her voice and said, "It's not even certain yet. What if they don't like me? So you're actually willing to be adopted? Julia's face went pale. Lisa, can't you just not go let them adopt another child? Okay. Julia tugged at Lisa's clothes, pleading miserably. You have the school scholarship anyway. You can go to high school for free. And what about after high school? Won't I go to university? Where will I get the money for college? Lisa interrupted her. For orphans, getting sponsorship to finish middle school was already a stroke of luck, and Lisa dared to dream of going to university. Julia looked at Lisa in disbelief, shocked. Lisa, you. Enough. Don't you want a home? Don't you want parents who love you? Don't you want someone to come for you at parent-teacher meetings like the others? This is a rare opportunity, and I won't give it up. I'm going to dress nicely to meet them, Lisa said, unwilling to waste more words. She turned and walked away. Julia stared at Lisa in disbelief, feeling lost. As long as she cried, Lisa would usually give in. But what was going on today? No, she had to make Lisa give up the opportunity on her own. Why was it that all the good things always happened to Lisa first? In a moment of panic, Julia clutched her stomach and put on a pained expression. Lisa, my stomach hurts. Lisa's lips curled ever so slightly. As expected, Julia was still the same. From childhood, whenever there was something good, she would find a way to take it from her. This little act, pretending to have her period and being in pain, was just a ploy to keep Lisa from meeting the Thompsons, giving Julia the chance to take her place. Julia, what's wrong? Is it your period? Lisa stepped forward to support her, looking genuinely concerned. She is so good at acting, then Lisa would gladly play along. Seeing the concern on Lisa's face, Julia felt secretly pleased. Lisa really is still the same fool. But on the surface, she frowned tightly, looking as if she were in unbearable pain. Yes, my stomach really hurts again. Maybe it's because I ate leftovers last night. I'll take you to see a doctor, Lisa said anxiously, gripping her wrist. Julia's eyes flickered. She couldn't leave the orphanage. What if she missed the people coming to adopt? No need, we don't have money anyway. Can you make me some brown sugar water instead? Julia squeezed out a few tears, looking pitifully at Lisa. Of course. Lisa smiled internally, but remained expressionless. But you've had a lot of brown sugar water already and you're still in pain. You really need to see a doctor. The teacher said menstrual pain isn't a small issue. It might affect childbirth in the future. But Julia couldn't come up with a new excuse fast enough. I still have money. The prize from the last competition. I've saved it. Lisa took her by the hand, looking worried, and started pulling her along. Wait, Lisa. What about the adoption? Julia was afraid Lisa would really drag her to the clinic. Oh, right. How about this? I'll tell the orphanage director to take you to the doctor, and I'll go meet the nice people first, Lisa said with a sudden realization. What's wrong with Lisa today? Why is she so stubborn? Julia was so angry she almost ground her teeth, but she still forced a weak smile. Forget it, Lisa. Don't bother the director. She already does so much for us. Lisa sneered internally, but kept an innocent expression. Then you rest well. I'll go meet them first and come back to make you sugar water later. The smile on Julia's face froze. She never expected Lisa to say something like that. Even with all her acting, Lisa wasn't staying to care for her. Even if she couldn't get adopted, she wanted to drag Lisa down with her. No need. I'm fine. I'll go with you. I saw on the news that some perverts adopt innocent girls to do bad things, Julia suddenly blurted out. And who could be more twisted than you would even harm your childhood friend? Lisa didn't want to argue anymore. By this time, the Thompsons should be arriving. She shook her head. Sorry, Julia. The director said they only want to meet me. They're not here to choose among the kids. With that, she turned and walked out without hesitation. Julia glared venomously at Lisa's back, a cold, hateful light flashing in her eyes. Lisa, why is it that all the good things always go to you first? The director favors you. Senior Jung favors you. Even the adoption, you're the first choice. Want to leave the orphanage? Not that easily. Lisa made her way to the director's office, following the path from memory. Even though she had grown up here, after so many years, her memory had faded a bit. She looked around while walking and accidentally bumped into someone. Lisa couldn't help rubbing her forehead. Who is this person? He is built like a rock. Sorry, did I bump into you? A young man looked at her. He had been holding a file, which fell to the ground when she collided with him. Lisa quickly crouched down to help him pick up the things on the ground. By chance, she caught a glimpse and found that it was her own file. "I'm sorry. That was careless of me." Lisa closed the file in her hand and handed it to the man in front of her. He reached out to take it. His fingers were long and slender, with well-defined knuckles. They had the elegance of a pianist. Their hands brushed slightly during the exchange, and they inevitably made eye contact. Just one glance left Lisa stunned. This guy was incredibly handsome. His eyebrows were sharp like blades, his nose straight, lips firmly shaped, and his side profile was as sculpted as a statue. It was pure perfection. But somehow, he looked familiar. And why was he holding her file? What was he planning to do with it? "It's fine," Jason replied calmly. He was extremely well-mannered. That voice was Jason, Laura's fiancé. The only heir to the richest man in City A. This was the Jason she had known in her youth. Not only did she remember his face from back then, she could never forget that voice. Back when she was on the brink of death, Laura was undergoing surgery in the room next door. Jason had stayed outside the whole time, whispering prayers for Laura's safety and promising to give her a grand wedding if she woke up. She had been in pain, hovering between life and death. His prayers had felt like knives slicing through her soul. Why should her life be the price for Laura's happiness? Why? Was it just because Laura was the precious daughter of the Thompson family and the future daughter-in-law of the Lewis family? Did that give her the right to act recklessly and even hire someone to kill? Julia had acted under Laura's orders. Were the Thompsons and Jason aware of it or not? Jason had no idea about the storm raging in Lisa's heart. He remained calm and walked away without even sparing her another glance. Lisa stared at his tall, slender figure walking away, wishing she could burn a hole through his back with her eyes. Whether they had known the truth or not, Lisa had to enter the Thompson family. She steadied herself, adjusted her expression, and knocked on the director's office door. "Come in," came the director's low and slightly raspy voice. Lisa pushed the door open and saw the director holding a photo, gently caressing it. She remembered that in her past life, Julia had been adopted by the Thompson family. Lisa had remained in the orphanage, finished high school, and later, with the director's support, went to college and joined the Lewis Group. Julia had entered the Lewis Group too, thanks to Laura. She caused all sorts of trouble, and Lisa had to take the blame. It was around that time that Jason entered her heart. But she never expected that when she died, he would be making promises of marriage to the one who had orchestrated her death. And the director, who had worked herself into illness to support her studies, had died of untreated cancer. In this life, she would never let any of that happen again. "Lisa, you're here," the director said as she saw her, setting down the photo and beckoning her over. Lisa obediently walked over and, suppressing the ache in her heart, let her eyes linger on the director's graying hair. The director's cancer was still in its early stages. Lisa was determined to earn money quickly and get her proper treatment. "Lisa, this was taken when you first came to the orphanage." "Take a look," the director said, gesturing to the photo. Only then did Lisa shift her gaze from the director's face to the photo on the desk. She had been 3 or 4 when she arrived at the orphanage. Now, 10 years later, the photo looked nothing like her current self. "Lisa, do you know why the Thompson family wanted to adopt you?" the director suddenly asked. "Wasn't it to find a playmate for their daughter?" Lisa leaned into the director's arms, feigning innocence. "No." The director smiled and shook her head, pulling a file from the cabinet and opening it. "Look, this is the record from when you entered the orphanage. You were brought here in June 10 years ago, supposedly found abandoned. But that's not the truth." The director sighed and gently patted Lisa's head. "Normally, I wouldn't let you be adopted so easily, but this time, the people who came might be your real parents." Real parents? Lisa's mind exploded. In her past life, she had felt sorry for Julia's tears and insisted that Julia go to meet the Thompsons in her place. The Thompsons had indeed adopted Julia. But the director had never mentioned this to her back then. The Thompsons claimed to be adopting, but they were actually looking for their daughter who had mysteriously gone missing 10 years ago. After a round of screening, only you matched the timeline and details, the director explained. "I didn't want to tell you at first, afraid of giving you false hope. But after thinking it over, I felt you deserved to know." You're a good girl. I hope you can find your real parents. The director's eyes welled up as she spoke. Lisa was overwhelmed with shock and sorrow. Julia must have used her file to impersonate her and claim adoption. When the DNA results didn't match, the director probably couldn't confirm anything and chose to keep silent. If she really was the Thompsons' daughter, then who was Laura? She remembered hearing in her previous life that the lady of the Thompson family had only given birth to one child and was unable to conceive again. Could it be that Laura had discovered her true identity in the past life and feared she would take back everything, so she orchestrated her death through Julia? The more Lisa thought, the more terrified she felt, and the stronger her hatred grew. If all of this was true, then Jason might actually be her fiancé. Lisa clenched her fists. All right, don't overthink it. I'll take you to meet them first, the director said, noticing her shifting expressions. She took Lisa's hand and put the photo into her pocket. Lisa stayed quiet and obediently followed the director to the visitor room meant for adoption. The Thompson couple was already there. To Lisa's surprise, Jason was also present. Lisa, greet them, the director gently reminded her. Lisa lifted her head and looked at the expectant faces of Mr. and Mrs. Thompson. She had not interacted much with them in her past life, but she'd heard from Julia that they were kind and loving people who had doted on Laura and treated Julia well too. Hello, Uncle and Auntie. Lisa greeted sweetly, raising her head to meet their eyes. Darling, look. She looks just like you when you were younger, the man said excitedly, gripping his wife's hand tightly. The wife stared at Lisa's face again and again, her eyes brimming with tears. She really does. We can't be mistaken this time. Among the three, Jason remained the calmest. He handed over the file he was holding and said in a composed voice, Sir, this is Lisa's information. Please take a look. The couple flipped through the file with trembling hands. Before Lisa could react, the woman burst into tears. Lisa, my Lisa. Mrs. Thompson rushed forward and held Lisa in her arms, crying and gently stroking her hair. I'm so sorry. It's our fault. We let you suffer. When Lisa went missing, their relatives died in a car crash while searching for her. Mr. Thompson was devastated, overwhelmed by grief and responsibilities. They ended up adopting Laura. Years passed with no leads on Lisa. They searched all over the country, investigating every trafficking case, never realizing that she had been in a local orphanage all along. Lisa stood frozen, unsure how to respond to the woman sobbing in her arms. Mr. Thompson was the first to calm down. He gently pulled his wife away and said softly, Dear, don't scare the child. We still need to do a test. What test? She's my daughter. She's Lisa. Mrs. Thompson clung to Lisa and repeated over and over, She looks just like me when I was young. Exactly the same. Mr. Thompson, I have a photo from when Lisa first arrived at the orphanage. Do you still have a picture of your daughter from back then? Maybe we can compare, the director suddenly said, pulling the photo from her pocket and handing it over. Yes, that's Lisa. Didn't she look like that back then? Mrs. Thompson said with wide eyes. Calm down, Mr. Thompson said gently, holding her. He had stored their daughter's photo and belongings in their old house to avoid further heartbreak. After 10 years, even his memory had become hazy. He was about to send someone to retrieve the photo when Jason stepped forward. I have Lisa's photo, he said in a clear, calm voice. He took out a locket from around his neck and opened it. Inside was a picture of a young girl with a sweet smile. Her features matched the one in the director's photo exactly. This is Lisa, Jason confirmed, casting a glance at Lisa. The evidence was undeniable. Even Mr. Thompson was moved. With slightly teary eyes, he asked in a trembling voice, Lisa, I'm your father. This is your mother. Will you come home with us? He was so emotional he could barely steady his hand as he turned to introduce Jason. I'm Jason. When we were young, I was the one who looked after you, Jason continued calmly, his clear and gentle gaze resting on Lisa's face. Lisa felt like she had just ridden an emotional roller coaster. Her eyes turned toward the director, seeking her opinion. But the director was lost in thought. She muttered, This locket. I remember. Wait a moment. Before anyone could react, the director had rushed out of the room. A few seconds later, she came back, panting, with another locket in her hand. Look at this. This was with Lisa when she first came here. I kept it safe because it looked valuable. Lisa looked up. The locket was identical to Jason's. She remembered now. In her past life, Julia had returned to the orphanage after being adopted. She had snooped around in the director's room, and afterward, this locket ended up in Laura's possession. So this locket had revealed her true identity and led Laura to plan her death. That's right. This was our engagement gift. These two lockets are a pair, and this one has my photo inside, Jason said as he stepped forward and opened the locket. Lisa looked over curiously. Inside was an old but recognizable photo of Jason. That's wonderful, Lisa. Can Mommy take you home now? Let's go home right away. Mrs. Thompson burst into tears again, overwhelmed with emotion. Lisa looked at Jason in a bit of a daze. His usually cold and sharp features seemed to show a trace of joy. You've already arranged my engagement when I'm still this young? Lisa felt like she was in some sort of fantasy and stared blankly at the Thompsons. That wasn't me. It was your grandfather. Mrs. Thompson quickly defended herself, waving her hands repeatedly. If you don't like it, we'll cancel the engagement with the Lewis family right away. The trace of a smile in Jason's eyes instantly faded, and his tightly pressed lips moved slightly. His voice was steady and calm. Auntie Sue, don't you think that's a bit unfair? Lisa has been missing for 10 years, and our Lewis family has spent so much manpower and resources. Now that you found Lisa, you want to cancel the engagement? Besides, when Lisa was little, I was the one who took care of her. Lisa, he looks only 4 or 5 years older than her. Could he really have taken care of her as a child? Before Lisa could voice her doubts, Jason suddenly pulled her in front of him and put the pocket watch back around her neck. Don't lose this again. It's a Lewis family heirloom, Jason said in a low voice, with a hint of seriousness. Director, something's wrong. The kitchen's on fire, a hurried voice interrupted their conversation. What? The orphanage director was so shocked she staggered. A dark look came into Lisa's eyes. The kitchen was perfectly fine. How could it catch fire? Suddenly, a chilling thought struck her. It was Julia. In order to stop her from getting adopted, that girl really would do anything. She even dared to set fire to the orphanage. How could the kitchen catch fire just like that? This place is too unsafe. Lisa, we're taking you home right now, Mrs. Thompson said as she hugged Lisa tightly. The director had already regained her composure and rushed toward the kitchen, where thick smoke was billowing. Lisa frowned deeply and pushed Mrs. Thompson away in a panic. No, I need to help the director put out the fire. Before they could react, Lisa had already darted away like the wind. I'll go with Lisa. Jason was the first to react and quickly followed her. The kitchen at the orphanage was actually an illegal structure. Because of the lack of rooms, they had to expand into the backyard with a tin shack to use as a kitchen. Several volunteers were already trying to fight the fire, but the flames were still raging. Jason, being tall and fast, quickly caught up with Lisa. He grabbed her wrist and said firmly, "Don't go, it's too dangerous." No, every extra person counts. If we don't help now, the kitchen will be gone. Lisa was frantic. She tried to shake off Jason's grip, but he was too strong for her. In desperation, Lisa grabbed his arm and bit down hard. Jason didn't expect that. He winced in pain but still didn't let go. Jason, let me go. Lisa glared at him angrily, furious. No, it's dangerous. Jason's sharp brows remained tightly furrowed, and his voice carried urgency. I need to help with the fire. Lisa stomped her foot in frustration. Let it burn. I'll build a new one. Jason pulled her back and held her tightly in his arms. His tone turned firm. I'll get you all a new orphanage. This one is too rundown. Lisa looked up at him in disbelief. Jason was speaking as if it was no big deal. You should go home with Uncle now. If you're not used to living with the Thompsons, you can come stay at my house. Jason gently patted her head and spoke calmly. What? Lisa nearly dropped her jaw. In her past life, Laura had chased after Jason for so long, and he never agreed to even live together while engaged. Was this really Jason? Stay at your house? Lisa stared at him in disbelief. Jason's usually composed expression suddenly showed a strange flush, almost as if he was shy. You misunderstood, Jason slightly moved his lips, clearly flustered. Lisa. At that moment, An annoying voice interrupted the two of them. Lisa turned toward the voice and saw Julia limping toward them, tears welling in her eyes. "Lisa, why didn't you go help with the fire? Are you scared?" Julia pretended to be concerned, but was clearly mocking Lisa for being too afraid to help. In her past life, Lisa might not have caught the hidden meaning, but things were different now. She curled her lips slightly and gave Julia a cold glance. "Then why didn't you go help? Were you scared?" Julia's tear-streaked face paled slightly. She glanced at Jason in shock and said softly, with a hint of grievance, "I did help. That's how I hurt my foot. The director told me to come out and rest." As she spoke, she limped closer and clung to Lisa's arm, looking like she was pleading. "Lisa, didn't you say you'd take me to the doctor earlier? Can you still take me now?" But Lisa didn't help her up. Instead, she said worriedly, "Julia, how about you wait a bit? I'll help the director put out the fire first and then take you to the hospital afterward." "No, it's too dangerous," Jason said again, grabbing Lisa's wrist as soon as he heard that she still hadn't given up on helping. Julia stared in shock at their interlocked arms, her expression flickering. This time, Lisa didn't struggle. Instead, she grabbed his arm and pulled him along. "If you're so worried, then come with me. That way it won't be dangerous." The fire was still intense. Lisa and Jason quickly joined the firefighting efforts, leaving Julia completely ignored. Julia was seething with rage and ended up bumping into the Thompsons, who had come rushing to find Lisa. Julia had always been good at reading people. At a glance, she could tell this couple was here to adopt Lisa. Her eyes flashed with smugness, and just as they arrived, she conveniently stumbled and fell in front of them. "Oh no, little girl, are you all right?" Mrs. Thompson quickly helped her up, looking concerned. Julia frowned tightly, tears falling uncontrollably, but her voice remained timid. "I'm fine. I'm okay." "You're in so much pain. How can that be nothing?" Mrs. Thompson felt a pang in her heart thinking about her daughter growing up in a place like this. She looked at Julia with visible sympathy. Julia leaned on Mrs. Thompson's arm as she slowly stood up, but suddenly fell again and cried out in pain. "What's going on?" "It's my fault." Mrs. Thompson started blaming herself. "It's not your fault, Auntie. I just hurt my foot while helping put out the fire. I wanted my best friend Lisa to take me to get it checked, but she..." Julia looked deeply aggrieved, then forced a smile. "It's okay. She's always like this. I'll just wait for her." "Lisa? Lisa who? Where did she go?" Mrs. Thompson ignored the subtle attempt to smear Lisa's image and asked directly. She seemed to go that way with a boy," Julia said timidly, pointing in the opposite direction to deliberately mislead them. The Thompsons immediately headed in the direction she pointed, hurrying along. They also told the driver behind them to take Julia to the hospital. This orphanage was not properly managed, so it did not even have a medical room. Julia quickly refused, waving her hands and saying, "Uncle, there's no need to trouble yourself. It's nothing serious. I'll just apply some medicinal alcohol later." She was firm in her attitude, so the driver did not insist. Watching the Thompson couple walk away, Julia let out a cold smile. She wanted to see how they could still adopt Lisa after seeing what she had prepared. That's right. The place she had directed them to was exactly Lisa's room. Inside, she had tampered with everything. Not only had she made the room a complete mess, but she had also planted test papers with failing grades, all bearing Lisa's name. She wanted to see how they would still believe Lisa was an excellent student when the papers showed scores of 30 or 40. Lisa and Jason were busy putting out the fire, completely unaware of Julia's scheme. After struggling for quite some time, the fire was finally extinguished. But the small kitchen had already been reduced to a pile of charred remains, with black smoke still rising. Lisa was filled with anger and hatred. Julia was truly hateful. If it hadn't been for the few volunteers who happened to be there that day, how could the children and the matron possibly have handled such a big fire on their own? Someone who would endanger everyone's safety for selfish reasons could no longer stay in the orphanage. "You must be exhausted," Jason said as he saw her face covered in black soot. He took a handkerchief from inside his shirt and tried to wipe her face, but instead of cleaning it, he made it even dirtier. Jason looked a little embarrassed and said in a low voice, "Lisa, you should go wash your face first." Only then did Lisa look at Jason. She was surprised to see that the boy, who was usually handsome and sharp, now had his entire face blackened. She tried to hold back a laugh and nodded. Yes, I need to wash up. She led Jason toward her room. Lisa and Julia were the oldest children in the orphanage, so they lived in the attic, where the matron had specially created 2 small rooms for them. But before they even reached the attic, they heard loud wailing coming from Lisa's room. It's my fault. I've let the child suffer. Just look at where she lives and what she eats. Lisa opened the door and saw Mrs. Thompson crying with teary eyes, almost fainting into Mr. Thompson's arms. Her room was now completely unrecognizable. There were leftover meals on the table, unwashed clothes on the bed, and test papers with failing grades scattered all over the floor. They did not belong to her, but they all had her name on them. All of them were failing scores. She had underestimated Julia. If this had been an ordinary family just looking to adopt, seeing this scene would surely make them think Lisa was a lazy, unclean, and dim-witted child, nothing like the excellent student the matron had described. But what Julia did not know was that Lisa was actually the Thompsons' biological daughter. So instead, this made the couple feel even more guilty and heartbroken. As soon as the wailing Mrs. Thompson saw Lisa and Jason return covered in soot, she immediately stopped crying. Her expression shifted several times before she shouted, "Jason, weren't you supposed to be watching Lisa? Why did you go fight the fire?" Jason looked a little awkward, but Lisa stepped forward and said, "Mom, don't blame him. I was the one who wanted to help put out the fire." That word, "Mom," wiped away all of Mrs. Thompson's anger and complaints. She rushed forward and hugged Lisa tightly, saying over and over, "My daughter, my good daughter, we can't stay here any longer. We're going home now right away." But Lisa shook her head firmly. "Not yet. I have to find out who started the fire before I go home with you." "What?" Mr. Thompson was shocked. "You're saying someone set the fire on purpose?" "Yes. The kitchen has always been a secure place. The matron is always careful. There's no way it could have caught fire for no reason," Lisa said with certainty. "Then we should let the police investigate." "You're just a child. How are you going to investigate?" Mrs. Thompson immediately opposed the idea. "If I don't find out who did it, I won't go with you," Lisa said firmly. "Uncle, Auntie, just let her investigate," Jason suddenly spoke up from the side. "Jason, can you be serious? I shouldn't have brought you here in the first place," Mrs. Thompson snapped at him. "Your face is all dirty. Go wash it now." Jason and Lisa looked at each other and couldn't help but burst out laughing. A moment later, both Jason and Lisa had cleaned up. Lisa was very thin, but still quite pretty. Her skin was fair, her features delicate, and she had a quiet and peaceful aura. Jason watched her as she wiped her face, then tossed the towel to him. As he caught Lisa's towel, his cool palm suddenly felt hot. He kept a straight face and wiped his own face with the towel, hiding his awkwardness. Lisa then found the matron and gathered all the children in the orphanage. She glanced at Julia, who was still limping over, and suddenly asked, "Julia, why did you mess up my room after I left?" Julia felt a sudden surge of joy in her heart. She thought her plan had worked. The Thompson couple must have seen Lisa's messy room and wouldn't want to adopt her anymore. She looked a little aggrieved and said to Lisa, "What are you talking about? I didn't mess up your room." "Really?" Lisa gave a cold smile. She took a test paper with a score of 40 from her pocket and opened it in front of Julia. Her voice was cold. "If you never went into my room, then why is your test paper on my desk?" Julia took the test paper from Lisa, glanced at it, and showed no panic. Instead, she looked even more wronged. "Lisa, this is your test paper. What are you talking about?" She looked innocent and pitiful, still limping slightly. Mrs. Thompson also took the test paper, glanced at it, and frowned. "Lisa, this is your test paper, isn't it? It has your name on it." Lisa nodded. "Yes, my name is Lisa. But this is not my paper. The handwriting isn't mine. You can take it to the matron and ask her." Mrs. Thompson did not understand what Lisa meant. To her, Lisa's grades didn't matter at all. The Thompson family had plenty of money. Even if Lisa couldn't read a single word, they could still give her a life of wealth and comfort. What mattered was that she was their biological daughter. Still, she didn't say anything more and handed the paper to the matron. The matron glanced at the test paper, her gaze turning cold as she looked at Julia. Her voice was sharper. Julia, why did you write Lisa's name on your own test paper? Since when has Lisa ever scored 40 on a test? To everyone's surprise, Julia suddenly burst into tears. Limping forward, she knelt in front of the matron. Matron, I know you've always liked Lisa more than me. Since we were little, I never fought her for anything. But how could you do this? You're using my grades and pretending they're Lisa's? Do you think people are fools? Even if they adopt Lisa, once they find out the truth, won't they blame you? Lisa almost laughed from anger. How could she twist the truth like this? She had really underestimated her. She was acting as if the matron had always favored Lisa and went to great lengths to trick the Thompsons into adopting her. The matron was furious, her face red with anger. Her voice was cold. Julia, what's wrong with you today? When have I ever hit you? When have I ever hit any of the children? Lisa has always shared everything with you. And now you're saying I'm pretending your paper is hers? Everyone knows Lisa's grades. Are all the awards in her room fake too? Julia was clever and did not argue directly. Instead, she lowered her head even more, trembling as she whispered, if the matron says it's mine, then it's mine. Please don't hit me. I won't fight with Lisa anymore. To an outsider, it would look like she was truly afraid and had been mistreated. They might think the matron was harsh on her. Lisa gently held the matron's hand and said, Don't be angry. How could I not be angry? What does she mean by this? When have I ever laid a hand on her? On any child? The matron's face had darkened completely. You said this test paper is mine? Lisa looked down at Julia, who was still acting pitiful. Julia looked up with tears on her face. It's not yours. The matron said it's mine. What a twisting of logic. Truly infuriating. Then how about this paper? Is it mine or yours? Lisa took out another test paper and opened it in front of her. It was her real paper. It was also a 9th grade language test, just like the previous one, with her name on it. But this one had a score of 96. Julia's eyes flickered. She looked at the Thompson couple, then at Jason, and finally said in a soft voice, Whoever Lisa and the matron say it belongs to, that's who it belongs to. What I say doesn't matter. What's wrong with you today? This clearly belongs to Lisa. What nonsense are you saying? The matron was so angry she almost fainted. Lisa let out a laugh from pure rage. She looked at Julia and said coldly, You're angry because I replaced your paper with mine. So you resent me and don't want me to be adopted. Is that why you set fire to the kitchen? Julia's expression changed, and she stumbled back a step, quickly denying it. I didn't. Lisa ignored her and stared at her coldly. Didn't you say I switched your paper? Don't you hate me?